What a day to be alive. Welcome to Rise Up with Rick. We are passionate about helping you extract the most out of every day and exploring and enhancing all things physical, mental and emotional well-being and performance. We are brought to you by runners.com. That's runnez.com, as well as rickmirabella.com. Radio, let's launch now.
G'day and welcome to Rise Up with Rick. I tell you what, I am like a dog with two dicks. I'm very excited. I got the great man over from England, Andy Blow, Precision Fuel and Hydration. He's joined us again for the third time on the podcast over the last few years. We love having him. He has gone gangbusters, as has the company. It's all over the joint. Precision Fuel and Hydration. Welcome, Andy Blow.
Thanks, Rick. Good to be back chatting with you again.
We love it. I love I know the UK Melbourne time slot. It works. One of us is going to be up late. One of us is going to be up early, but we love it. And I appreciate your time and energy. Doesn't matter how busy you get, mate. You always allow time for us in Australia, and we love it. We've had a big few years, as have you, mate. I was just saying off there, you've worked your bum off for 12 years in the lab and in the kitchen and all over events all over the world. 12 years for what people are saying now, overnight sensation. There's no such thing. You are popping up everywhere. At marathons and ultras and everywhere, triathlons, which is, of course was your genesis, everywhere, all over the world. I love it. I've been a huge fan since the very first time I met you and tasted it. It's been fantastic. Lots of our runners, members around Australia and all over the world do the sweat test online and a precision hydration, 1,500 capsules and the fizzy effervescence. They love the chews. But I tell you what, the gels have been just an absolutely megastar type hit. The products are going well. Tell us about life in day in the life, or at the moment, the last 6-12 months in Andy Blow and Precision Fuel and Hydration.
Yeah, well, thanks for all your kind words, Rick. You're our number one. You're our number one sales guy, really. But no, we've the last 6 months has been all about moving office, moving warehouse in the UK. Because, like you said, we've seen some good growth. We're getting busier. We found a fantastic new facility just up the road from where we were. We could get all of our warehousing in one spot. We can get all of our office in one spot. We've got a lovely 2-floor office now because we've been expanding the team. So there's been a huge focus on getting all of that ready to prepare for a big 2024. So yeah, very excited about kicking this year off, basically.
If you're not on the email list, get on it. They punch out brilliant content every week, and it's really informative, really educational. And I promise you, that's just me coming from a 20-year coach that just loves reading what they put out. They've put out some great stuff every week. Now, a few big ultra runners on the books, and one of them this week, we've got Tyler Green. Talk about a few of the ultra runners on the books at the moment. And the Western States is going to be huge for you guys this year.
Yeah, so we got into ultra running, in a big way, I suppose, as a company in the last 2 years. Really, we had two things happen. Really, Hayden Hawks, who's one of the world's top ultra runners, American guy from Utah, he started using the products and got really into them, wanted to use them for Western States. So we were helping him out, and that kind of opened our eyes and opened the door to looking at the ultra running scene a bit more. And also we had Ricky, who joined our team, who's one of our sports science customer service guys. Ricky's a really keen and very, very talented ultra runner as well. So those two things came together and we started to really look at working more in that space. We went to Western States last year. We crewed for Hayden. Unfortunately, he had to drop out because of a bad knee injury. It resulted in him having to have knee surgery to remove a bone spur. But we were bitten by the bug. And then what we found soon enough, we were out there talking to runners. Loads of people at the race were using our products anyway. We started getting calls from athletes, including a lot of pro athletes who wanted to they realised we were sort of looking a lot more at ultra running. They wanted to know if they could work with us. And I think there'll be 8 or 9 people from the company going back from the UK all the way over to California for Western States this year, because we've got so many athletes that we're supporting and crewing. It'll be the same at UTMB in France down in August, a bunch of races in between. We'll probably be also at the Leadville 100 in a big way as well, because we've got some athletes to support there. So yeah, really, really cool. And that I know everyone talks about it, but the vibe at the sort of the feeling and the camaraderie at ultra events is awesome. It's we love being there.
Yeah, it strikes me when you said bitten by the bug, that's fantastic. We've got probably only 2-3% of members, if that, are big on the ultra scene. Obviously, truckloads of marathoners, triathletes, and the like, which is where you guys started your journey because of your history, athletic history. The ultra stuff, there is something about it. And we know those big name events like Leadville, UTMB, and the like, and Western States. It's fascinating to me because a lot of my questions coming up is around what I guess our listeners and our members will want to hear stuff about our best ideal prep for a sub 3 or a sub 4 marathon or an
Yeah.
Olympic distance try, really big, this kind of stuff. But we might as well start here. We might as well, we're here. Let's think about, so an ultra runner. I know when you're talking at the very pointy end, you might have as many as 5 or 6 in the top 10 in some of these events. Precision Fuel. Tell us about just give us a bit of an idea of their fueling strategy. So a top 10 Western States type runner. I know there's more than one way to skin a cat and everyone's physiology is different, but give us a bit of a brief overview if you can be broad.
Yeah, of course. I think in recent years, talking to a lot of the top ultra runners, a few years ago, it was very common for them to all have some pretty diverse and pretty crazy nutrition plans. Some people would use a lot of sports nutrition. Some people would use a lot of real food. Some people would use like home brews and homemade stuff that they were concocting themselves. And it was kind of all over the map. And I think if you ask 10 different people, you got 10 different answers as to what they were doing. I think now, if you look at the sharp end of those races, almost all the athletes are using predominantly sports nutrition. They're definitely not using all sports nutrition, but they're using lots and lots of gels, lots and lots of sports drink to get the easy, simple, liquid and quantifiable calories and grams of carbohydrates in. And then what a lot of them are then doing is they're like supplementing it with some different flavors, with some different textures. So a little bit more real food, maybe even a little bit of broth or soup or something like that, salty and savory. Later on in the race, they might have some rice balls or they might have some like little cakes or something like that. But honestly, the movement, it's a bit like it is in pro cycling, who do very long races as well. Like the movement is far more towards, digestible, simple, quantifiable sports nutrition. Because although it's a long race, the fast guys and girls, they're doing these 100 milers now in like 14 hours, So although it is considerably longer than, say, an Ironman, it's not that long. It's not the 22, 23 hours that it used to be. And so a lot of them are just head down, they're hitting whatever number of grams per hour. Something like Western States is really interesting when you look at the hydration, because it starts off really cold. Like last year, they were tramping through the snow in the first bits early in the morning. You get to the middle of the day, it's like 35 degrees and can be humid. So you've got to, they're sort of modulating their hydration strategy as they go through the day, because you're clearly not going to be smashing a litre an hour in the snow. But come later in the day, you might be drinking 1.1, 1.2 litres an hour for a period in that race if it's really, really hot and you're still moving fast. So I think the two places where the ultra distance stuff probably differs the most from marathon is in the fact that in marathon, it's basically exclusively sports nutrition. It's gels or drinks or a bit of both. And in ultra, and whereas in ultra, you're bringing in a bit of real food. And then I would say in marathon, unless it's super hot, super humid, the hydration requirements are usually relatively modest. There are exceptions. Like we saw, we helped a couple of guys who were running the Tokyo Olympic marathon, very hot and humid, and we saw some pretty big hydration numbers there. But in general, a lot of marathons are in cooler, more moderate conditions, hopefully, and it's there. Therefore, the strategy is all about fueling. It's all about getting the grams of carbs in and just enough liquids to keep you going.
Yeah, brilliantly put. Tell me about a top 10 Western States, because we're just on the topic. Grams per hour type setup, because clearly, like you said, these guys and girls at the front, they're moving. They are chewing through glycogen. They're not stuffing around out there. So what's the average gram? Look, I know everyone's different. We'll talk about weight and stuff later, but what's the average grams?
I would say the lowest that we're seeing at that level now is probably 70 something grams an hour, maybe 80. The highest will get getting over 100, but there's still a bit of a difference, because if you think about it, if you've got a guy who's doing 110 and you've got a guy who's doing 70, that's the difference of 40 grams an hour. Now over 10 hours, that's 400 grams of carbs. That's a
A
big,
lot.
big difference. But there is still a bit of inter individual variance on that. I don't think you're seeing anyone though. I've certainly not seen numbers on anyone crunching less than 70, and that's on the low side for the guys who are moving fast.
It's come a long way. It's really come a long way. Education's come a long way with around this kind of stuff. I've said this, maybe the first time me and you caught up, but I feel like physiology, rep sets, and sports psychology has come a long way, but physiology and programming has evolved, but still very similar to stuff we might have been doing in the 80s and 90s. This stuff's just come so far, and it's fascinating. And I think we're at a spot now with people like you that I feel like there's not as much dogma. It's very much what you see is what you get. The education's there. You get products like this that you like, and they're going to help you. What about now? We'll get on this. We'll talk about marathoners now. Marathon sub 3. You've got an athlete, Andy Blow, who wants to run 250, 255. What are we talking pre-race, 24 hours? Because a lot of people still get this wrong, the 24-hour pre-race hydration, and fueling to a lesser extent, and then during. So the average 250 to 3 hour marathon.
Yeah, I reckon it's all right, Rick, as well. Let's rewind into a little bit further than that, into their training as well, because one thing where I think philosophies have changed a lot is in fueling and hydrating for the training, because where there's a big similarity between, say, an ultra runner and a marathon runner is actually your weekly training, apart from some specialist sessions where the marathon runner is going to do much more tempo and marathon paced and faster work, and maybe the ultra runner is going to do some more longer, ploddier type sessions. Your weekly mileage, if you're going for an ultra or you're going for a marathon, is probably not going to be vastly different. And what we're definitely seeing is that in order to support the high mileage that most people need to do well in a marathon, if you are going to run a substantially sub 3, you're going to be running some decent mileage, then fueling and hydrating really well in your big sessions and around your big sessions is critical. It used to be that there was a lot of advice around running your long runs fasted, minimizing your intake, maybe upping your carbs just before race and on race day, but like trying to run on a minimal diet because it's going to keep your weight down, because it's going to stop, it's going to teach your body to burn fat. And speaking from personal experience, I've just gone through sort of an 8-10 week program of training up for a 40, it's not a marathon, but it's a 14-mile off-road race. So kind of like hour 45, that kind of time. So approaching the marathon-esque distance. And one of the biggest differences I did is all of my long runs, even if I just only over an hour, I had at least one, if not two gels. And I made sure that if I didn't have a drink with me, because I was training in the winter a lot of the time, it was cold, I was actually pre-hydrating and post-hydrating really well with a carb and electrolyte drink. And I found that my recovery, my ability to then bounce back and back that training session up with a decent session the next day and next day and next day, drove so much more consistency. And in the marathon world, we've been chatting with guy who just came, I think, 8th or 9th at the Olympic trials in the US, Reed Fisher, ran about 210.
Reed Fisher's
great,
very good athlete. Love him.
Amazing guy. Yeah, really, really cool guy. And he was just saying, look, one of the biggest differences he's seen in recent years is the same. Like, I went for a run with him. I was in Boulder in Colorado in December. We went for a run in the snow. He's like, we're smashing gels on an hour and 10 run, and he said that was just like unheard of a few years ago. So I think if you're in that marathon build-up phase at the moment, remember, like, fuel quite adequately, even aggressively, especially in your longer sessions, because you want to get the best out of those sessions and you want to recover the best you can. Worrying about like half a kilo here and there and trying to get your body weight down or trying to teach your body to burn fat, I think that I'm not going to say that's a thing of the past, because a lot of people are still doing it, and it's not about going completely the other way and fueling ridiculous, but it is about prioritizing the fueling for your recovery rather than skimping. When you get into that immediate race build up, if we talk about fueling first of all, because that starts first, like 2 days out, really, you want to start loading up on the carbohydrates in your diet and reducing down some of the other things that you don't need so much. So you're going to reduce down, if you're putting the carbohydrate amount up, you probably want to bring the fat content down a little bit, so you're not just overkill on the calories and feeling sick. And also, I would say start at that point to just reduce the fiber a bit in the diet. And then in the last 36 hours or so, I tend to eat and recommend eating very, very low fiber, because you want to get lots of carbs in, 8 or 10 grams of carb per kilo of body weight, which is actually a lot when you put it on a series of plates. And so, you start eating cereal, breakfast cereal, white toast, white bagels, very plain stuff. I eat a lot of things I just add honey to stuff, and I even drink some of our drinks, like the carbohydrate only drink. I'll just drink that in the 24 hours building up, just to get my total carbs up without any fiber. And what that does, obviously, it makes it easier to digest and assimilate. It means you're not needing to go to the toilet so much, and your stomach's just a bit happier with that. So carb loading, start that 2 days out, ramp it up, but then still be sensible about what you eat, like the late the night before and on the morning of. You want to fuel up before the race, and you want a carb rich meal the night before, one in the morning. But that's that kind of the pasta party mentality, where you try and leave all your carb loading to one big meal, is not such a great idea. That can leave you feeling pretty sick, pretty bloated. You do want a good carb based meal then, but don't rely on that. Your carb loading will have been almost complete by the night before. You're not kind of starting it the night before. With pre-hydration, biggest mistake, hands down, is, especially if you think the race is going to be a bit warm, is people just overdrink. They just drink way too much fluid in general in the last few days. That's you see all runners walking around at the pickup for the numbers, don't you, with a water bottle, and there's always massive queues for the toilets because everyone's just drinking, and you want to drink normally. You probably, if you are carb loading as well, you want to drink a little bit more, because that carbohydrate that you're storing needs some water to store with it. But at the same time, you can't just keep drinking until you're peeing clear all the time. That's a sign that you're flushing the electrolytes out of your body. So what you're holding in your hand there, pH 1500, we always say take one of those the night before, half a litre or so, one of them in the morning, and that's on top of your normal fluid intake. So then that's your top up. That just gives you a bit of extra fluid volume, a bit of extra electrolytes. The electrolytes help you absorb and hold on to the fluids, and then you're good to go. You don't need to go crazy with it. So right in the build up, they're the key things, carb loading and preloading with electrolytes and fluid.
I'll stop you there. I love it. The electrolyte build up is crucial. So before we get into the race strategies, that is crucial, because too many people probably get that wrong. And I did say 250. This any marathons, guys. I just know that nutrition is one thing that can really move the needle on some of you guys who've been training for years and years to do a certain time. So I could be talking to 4-hour guys, debutante. You're all time under tension. It's all very, very, very hard. So listen to Andy and get your hydration and fuel plan. Go to their website. Okay, so we're on race day, marathon. Now, again, too many people probably, I think still in this day and age, mate, probably reward themselves with fuel after 45, 50 minutes. Oh, at 40 minutes, I can get reward for my work. This is race day, we're talking on the race.
Yeah.
So we always say, look, just top up early. Tell us about the ideal marathon fueling strategy. I know that's broad, but give us a very general vibe.
Yeah, I think for most people who are serious and running for a serious time for them, it is a generalization. There's some individualization in this, but something around 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour, give or take. It's going to be a little bit less if you're a bit smaller, if you're running slower, or if you just can't tolerate the eating and drinking when you're running. And it's going to be a little bit more maybe if you're a bit bigger, a bit faster, or if you're good at eating and drinking, or you feel like you need more when you're racing. But 60 grams broadly, that's about 2 energy gels, which is probably quite a bit more than a lot of people would think about taking, or it's certainly a lot more than anyone used to take. Now, I'm a big fan of keeping it really simple, and in marathons, even if they're giving out gels or they're giving out sports drinks at the aid stations and things, unless you're an elite runner who can pick up your own bottles, I would say carry all the gels that you need for the race. in your pockets or in your race belt, because if you're out there for 3 hours, that's going to be about 6 gels. That weighs close to nothing really in the scheme of things. And it means that you can take those gels exactly when you want. You don't have any argy-bargy trying to get to tables to grab them. You can just get them down. All you've got to focus on then is picking up some water or some sports drink to wet your mouth, wash it down. And the amount of that is going to be dynamic, because the amount of gels you're going to take is the same, whether it's cold, moderate, hot. It pretty much doesn't change. The amount of fluid you're going to want to take in is going to be dramatically determined by the weather conditions. So on a hot, humid day, you might drink 3 times more than you do on a cold, damp day. And that's something which you've got to have some pre-thought about that. You've got to have trained in some different conditions to know how much you're going to need. And then on the day, you've got to be prepared to flex your strategy based on, what the weather turns out to be like, and then how you're feeling and how you're operating on the day.
Yeah, love it. And the 60 gram of carbs, people might think, well, that's a lot, but you are running a marathon per hour, that is. And some people have more as well. You are churning through, you are at marathon pace, churning through glycogen quite quickly. Never wait to top up as well. So get that from the outset would be your biggest advice.
Yeah,
as well.
you can start eating after 25, 30 minutes. You might not
100%.
feel like it, but start eating early and getting the calories in. Yeah.
And go back to Andy's the training lead up. You said it brilliantly about fueling during every single run. Reed Fisher, Andy now 60-minute runs. It's brilliant. Definitely long runs. Like, how many times do people get through their long run fasted only to crash on the couch for 3 hours, cooked for the day? If you got kids, that's can't happen anyway. Cooked for the day, and then the regeneration process is already put on the back foot. So the adaptation and all these stuff that we're actually trying to train for really is compromised as well. So listen to Andy's advice there on fueling, on definitely all your long runs and even your longer sessions. Really, really good. I think the 5,000 meter guys at the elite level do that now anyway. Like, it's not as if it's
they're taking a carb drink during a lot of their sessions, or carbon electrolyte drink if it's hot. They might be doing 400-meter intervals, K reps or whatever, and all of them can get through that session while not taking anything at all. But they might see a bit of performance drop off later on, but they're certainly going to see reduced recovery. And if you're one of the more really serious people who are training twice a day, then it's mandatory, really, because you're not going to get enough in otherwise just between sessions. Because we all know what it feels like when you finish the hard workout. It does take a while for your appetite to come back, if you want to eat enough. And you could be within 3-4 hours of having to go out and go again. If you haven't eaten and drunk enough in that session, that over 2-3 days, that's going to bite you in the backside.
You start to feel like shit. You kind of won't know why. You kind of remember. You don't really document why, because you've just done those 8 times 1K reps or a hard session or a tempo run, and because it's quote unquote not long enough for fuel, you'll start to gradually feel like shit, and you go, whoa. So just these little tips are really good. Just to always have a drink bottle on hand with some hydration strategies and a bit of fueling. Talk about the tries for a bit, brother, because these chews are elite. I don't think I've got to tell anyone how much we love the chews. Personally, the gels for the running are amazing. The longer stuff, or the ultras or the triathlon stuff on a bike, these chews, I could only imagine they're designed specifically for ultras, cycling, stuff like that.
Yeah, we see a lot of those getting used in ultras when people want to switch away from gels and have something to chew on and have a little bit of flavour, because we've just got the mint and lemon flavours in those. Same with long distance tries, and long bike rides. I was just on a training camp with Lotto Destiny, the pro tour team in Spain a couple of weeks ago. The week they were there 10 days, 36 guys. They used 1,400 chews that week on the bike. So,
well, that's not bad. I smashed through
insane.
1,400 just at my desk in a week, so that's all right. Me and them are going about parks. They're chewing through. They're actually burning shitloads of calories, and I'm just working. But they taste good enough to smash 1,400. But I can imagine they've got the same quality content as the gels, 30 grams, and the average gel is 23-ish. So they're already And if you want to go back to previous episodes with Andy, you can have a listen to the intense science that goes into that in the kitchen and the lab. But yeah, the chews are amazing. The 90-gram carb gels are phenomenal. And we'll just spend a bit of time on that and the new flow gel, which I'm a big fan of as well. So talk us through the 90-gram carbs. I love them, by the way, and the flow gels.
Yeah, so the 90-gram gel was just an idea because we were getting so many people that wanted a convenient way to carry, individual gel packets. If you're trying to take 60 or 90 grams an hour, that can be a lot of individual packs to carry open. It creates more waste. We experimented with putting the three of the gels in one pouch essentially, and it's like, if you've not seen one, it's like a baby food pouch basically with a screwed top. And because the gel is quite set, our gel, it doesn't leak out there. So you can take the lid off, you can put it in your pocket, or you can put a valve, like a Camelback style bite valve on it, and you can just sip away on that. So it's just really, it's not a revolution. It's three gels in one packet, but it's just that it's such a user friendly way to carry it. Like in the 14-mile race that I did at the weekend, I've got a pair of like trail running shorts with the old pockets on the outside of the thigh. I just put one of those in the outside leg pocket, and I was just sipping on little bits of that as I went round, and it's perfect because I didn't finish it. I probably took just over half of it, and I had a little bit of drink from one spot as well. But it's not like the advantage of having that over a single gel is that you don't feel like you need to take it all in one go. You can just have a little bit here and there. And that was a really hilly course that I was racing on. So you don't want to be trying to eat this thing when you're like going up a really steep incline or down a really steep incline. So you've only got a few seconds or a couple of minutes at a time to have a little bit. So I was just kind of like micro dosing, micro sipping on the gel here and there. And I think that's one of the big advantages for that form factor.
Big term, and I love the adjective because I use it myself, microdosing on that stuff. Hey, don't gloss over the weekend. First place in his age group, top 10 overall, just went and took the piss on the weekend. You felt strong?
I had a good run, mate. Yeah, it was. It's been a while coming. It's a race that it means not a lot to anyone, but it's like a local race where I grew up. It's a 14-mile cross country, and I used to do it with my dad when we were younger. So I did it. I think I was about 17 the first time I did it. 3-4 years ago, my dad was 70, and we went back and he did it, and he cracked round and got under the cut off time and got round. So setting the bar. My brother did it as well. And the last 2 years, the reason I went back this year is the last 2 years I've signed up, paid my money, and then I was down with flu the first year, and I was down with COVID last year on the week before the race. So it's been one of those that I've just been wanting to like scratch off for a while. But what was mega as well is that it's a very hilly, tough course. It's in the middle of Leicestershire. It goes over 3 or 4 big hills, and it's kind of an out and back. And the course record, I think, was probably something like 1 hour 25 minutes or something like that. And this year, Tom Evans, the Adidas Terex runner, he lives not far from there now. He lives in Loughborough, and he showed up to have a bit of a hit out, a bit of a hard training run, and went and blasted around in 1 hour 21. And I think second place was 1 hour 31. So he showed us all what world class running looks like, which is always, it's good to see that firsthand.
Yeah, that's it. One of the very few sports that you can go around at the start line with the very best of all time or best in the world. And there's not many like that. Well done. I love you're traveling a lot. You got a lot going on. You've always got something on the horizon. So it's good that you can keep yourself in that kind of shape, just rock up and win age groups, and especially such a significant, sentimental, and beautiful family event as that. Tell us quickly, I'm just going to go for the email. It's easy content here. It's magnificent because I reckon this is what people want to hear. You got the myths here. Now, I'll put you on the spot a bit. Just try to succinct them. I'll give you 30 seconds each answer. Debunking 5 sporting myths is the locust. I love this shit. I love it. Me and you sing from the same in book regularly. You get slower as you get older, Andy.
Yeah, well, that's some people accept that has to happen. I mean, over time, if you take 20-year-old you at your peak and you're like 70-year-old you at your peak, 20-year-old you is going to win, isn't it? But I think the difference is that if you stay motivated, you use all of the tricks of the trade, you learn things like I am now like absolutely 50 times better than I ever was at pacing a race. Like I reckon one of the reasons I had a good race at the weekend is because if I look at my heart rate trace, I look at my pace per K, I probably it was 2 laps around the field to start with before you headed out into the thing. I reckon I left that field in 16th or 17th place, and then pretty much all day I'm just like chipping away, going forward through the field just by a little bit. I did get past a couple of times, but I must have passed 10 guys and got passed by 2. And whereas the old me, young Andy would have been off at the front, like showing that I could be up there, and then basically having a painful, slow slide back down through as the wheels came off. And things like that, pacing, things like getting your fueling and hydration right, getting more consistency in your training by
Continuity.
doing your easy sessions a bit easier. You don't have to just like accept this myth that you will just non-stop get slower. There's a lot of ways that you can fake it and keep the dream alive.
And keep moving. Like the biggest thing is keep moving to your 70, 80, 90 as well. But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater if you feel like, oh, I'm never going to run a 5,000 PB or a 15. It's about, like you said, learning to mitigate and work around and pacing and fueling and intelligence, continuity, easy on your easy days, being smart. Brilliant. Love it. Sing from the.
I'll tell you another quick tip there as well, Rick. When I used to run seriously, I used to look at minutes a mile all the time, minutes a mile, everything. Like it was always like, is it under 6 minutes a mile? Can I average 5 minutes a mile in a race? That was all the metrics. When I came back to running after I'd had knee surgery and I was a bit older and that sort of thing, I flipped. I didn't do this deliberately. My watch, I bought a new Garmin. It was like set up for minutes per K. And so I just changed all my metrics at that point and I start running in minutes per K. And of course, at first, I don't know what 5 minutes a K is or 4:30, or it's just like, it's all relative. So like now I've changed the rules of the game because I'm now really stoked if I do a run under 4 minutes a K.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you exactly what that is in minutes per mile. I know roughly what it is, but it's just another.
That's
so
fantastic.
I reckon change up your units. If you're not as fast as you used to be, change the measurements.
I use a lot of tips. I've never heard that, and I love it. All Aussies, obviously, we're all minutes per K. Most Aussies.
Yeah, well, you could give
would
it a spin on minutes a mile for a while.
love it. It's like when you, as an Aussie, and you go over to the States or something, and you just say, for some reason, if it's snowing or whatever, you got to jump on a treadmill and it's all in miles per hour, and people get a bit shy. They whack it straight up to 15. It's like, oh, hang on, they're nearly going off the back. It's like, hang on, hold back a bit, hold back a bit. That's not 15K an hour. Lighter equals faster. Myth number 2, Andrew.
Yeah. Well, again, very common one, especially for runners. Back in the day, it was all about, running. Remember when running shoes used to be like wafer thin and everything was about shaving off a few grams because, everything else being equal, lighter is going to be faster. But the statement there is if everything else is equal. And again, I feel I've been harping on about this great race I did at the weekend, but I weighed myself before that race because we were trying to work out sweat rates, for the race, and I weighed in at about 74 kilos. Now, when I last ran that race, I would have been about 71, 72 kilos, and when I was serious racing, I would have been about 68 kilos. But I was nearly as fast this weekend as I was 3-4 years ago at 71 kilos, and feeling like more robust and more solid. And some of that's just been because I've just let go of this conception that I've got to be as light as possible. And fueling, I would rather fuel adequately with my runs or the rest of it and end up being 1 or 2 kilos heavier just naturally, rather than being on the jagged edge of like stripping off that extra kilo or two and having to cut back on my food and my fuel in order to do that. And I think there's a lot of examples. I still see it in even at the professional level now. There can be an unhealthy obsession with getting as light as possible, and it's not very often. It's not optimal. It leads to more inconsistency in training, more propensity to injury, more propensity to illness. It's actually just sometimes as well, it's just a harder way to live your life, like restricting yourself. It's not good. So I would say, you know, don't obsess about that stuff. If you run plenty and you eat pretty well, you'll find a good natural racing weight that works for you. And trying to obsess over getting lighter just to be what you perceive to be a tiny bit faster might be either diminishing returns or might even backfire.
100%. Geez, that was perfect. We say it a lot, but it's very, very true. I'm glad you touched on the continuity due to immune system issues and injury and illness. And what you also touched on was the harder way to live your life. And often, if especially if it's in a session, the cortisol levels and the stress hormones throughout your body, if you're stressing about this and thinking about it as front, point, and center for the majority of your week, month, year, your body already thinks you've ran fucking 15 marathons because of the stress levels going through. So you're in a relaxed state now, you're strong, you're robust, and you're not obsessing about something, has to be good. Okay, but I do know there's a lot of people out there that struggle with that kind of stuff, but it's really, I love that one as well. Really good. I think we covered this one pretty well. You only need to drink plain water to thirst.
Yeah. I mean, that was the thing that was touted a few years ago, 10 years ago or so. Tim Noakes wrote this book about, debunking everything you knew about hydration. And there were some really good points and some really good stuff in that book, but it went a bit far, in my opinion, in that it sort of, it put people off. It put some people off using electrolytes at all, saying they're not necessary, saying it's not necessary to take salt and sodium. And we know that in the heat and the humidity, if you've got a big sweat rate, if you lose a lot of salt like I do, actually replacing electrolytes is really important as well. And the nuance of that message was totally lost in that sort of drink water to thirst thing. And thankfully, I think we've seen people taking a more balanced approach on that. But still, I would say there's not a week goes by where someone doesn't either ping an email or a social media comment or something like that about it's a load of old electrolytes, load of old bollocks. You just need to drink water when you're thirsty. And it's like, come on, we've got to get past that.
Yeah, we've moved past that. I thought that was a quick and easy one to debunk. But the for performance, health, regenerate, this is not even a question. You should go. This is a good one. 2024, I reckon we've come past this one as well. You should go low carb, high fat.
Yeah, again, I mean that was what, like 8 years ago, maybe 6 to 8 years ago, that really peaked. And like all things, there's not no merit to eating low carbs some of the time for some people. But if you're talking about performance, if you're talking about people that are doing lots of running, particularly lots of hard running, and certainly when you're racing, like it's pretty obvious to me in the sense that we're seeing no examples of it at the elite level that I'm aware of, is people relying on a high carbohydrate intake to support a high level of endurance performance. And yeah, there are some metabolic conditions, there's some, there's clearly people with blood sugar control issues around diabetes and those kind of things who are better off being more restrictive with their carbohydrate intake. And there are one or two examples of athletes allegedly performing pretty well on low carbs. But for the vast majority of people, the majority of the time, like adequately fueling with carbohydrate is a way to maximize your performance. No question about that.
Yeah, and we've got to remember, listeners, if you have done ketogenic stuff and that to lose weight, that's great, or anti-inflammatory stuff, that's amazing. But Andy is speaking from 20 years in the game, and he started this whole company and process because of his own performance issues and he wanted to move the needle for himself, and then he's got a passion and an obsession with helping you, and that's why it's really amazing that he's put all this content out weekly, by the way. And it's really good. People need to read that more, especially if you're struggling with moving the needle, or you've hit a plateau, or you keep bonking, or just not running well, or not running consistent. Last one. Hang on. What have I got to read this properly? Sorry, mate. Oh, you need to decant 10 gels to get 300 grams of carb in your bottle. I like it. Not anymore, not with Precision Fuel.
Mate, that's our new flow gel. Yeah, we see this. You probably don't see it as much with runners all the time, but the triathletes will hear this one. Is that when you're doing an Ironman or something, you're having to squeeze like 10, 15 gels into a water bottle to get all of your calories in on the bike. We've now got a flow gel pouch, which is a runnier version of the gel. 10 gels in one. You decant it straight into your bottle. We even do a bottle actually with graduated marks on the side, so you can see how much you've had. Makes it real simple. No mess. Really simple.
Straight through the flow gel, the PF flow gel. I'm onto this. I'm loving it. So this kind of stuff, it should be fascinating to you if you're an endurance athlete. And we talk a lot on this show and a lot of my radio and media stuff about psychology and mental health and obviously physiology, performance, and just life in general, happiness, gratitude. But this stuff, Andy's my go-to because he's forgotten more about this stuff than we'll ever know. Really, really good. The future, Andy Blow, what holds in the future for yourself, brother? Precision Fuel, the family, everything else.
Yeah, we're on a, as you pointed out, we've been the 12-year overnight success story, as some people are saying in the business, because it's been a long slog to get to the point where we are now. But we feel genuinely, as cliche as it sounds, that we're only getting started. You know, we've grown our team. We've got a really great bunch of people in the office and around the world. We're increasing our distribution around the world. We're working with loads more athletes. So we're sort of I don't know, we're following our passion, mate, and that's what we've always done. And we're keeping our product simple. We're not looking at going crazy with our product range and that sort of thing. We want to get better at understanding how we can tweak our products and teach people how to use them better. We've got a fantastic an expanding group of people offering one-to-one video calls now, because I know some of your sort of subscribers and your athletes have used that service. They can book a free video call with our team. We've now got a couple of people based in Oz who are doing that as well, so the time zone's a lot friendlier. We're just going to keep basically, mate, putting one foot in front of the other, doing the same, trying to follow our noses and keep enjoying ourselves growing this business. That's what we're here for.
I love it. I love it. What makes Andy Blow happy and gives you energy? What gives you energy, Andy?
The biggest two things at the moment are watching my kids progress in what they're doing in their sports. They're both just absolutely crushing the swimming at the moment, which is great to see. So awesome. I'm enjoying being a poolside dad. Some
what are their ages?
Watching
what are their ages at the moment,
mate? 7 and 9.
Yeah.
So
the blow physiology is strong in them.
I think there seems to be a good bit. There seems to be an endurance factor in there somewhere. So that's looking good. And then the other thing is actually just big focus, and it has been for a number of years now. Is growing a family and a culture and a team at work, because I spend a lot of my waking hours working, and we've moved into a great new office. We've got some fantastic new people joining the team, and it's really gratifying to see how that's developed. And we've got some guys and girls that have been with us for a number of years now, people that we picked up when they were in their late teens, early 20s, who are now becoming managers in the business, and we're seeing them progressing. And there's a lot of I get a lot of gratitude from, and a lot of good vibes from seeing people develop and grow and progress. And we've been through some hard times as a little business, but seeing those people, what it's done to those people to grow through that with us has been really cool. So I want more of the same of that.
Brilliant answer. You can see, we've always resonated. I've always loved the way you go about it as a founder and a startup, and now I've loved seeing your journey over the last few years, and also just talk about your kids and the passion there. But the business and the family within it. The business is a family, the Precision Fuel and Hydration family. Lasting tips, mate. 30 seconds left on the clock. Lasting tips for the runners, triathletes, athletes, humans out there. If you listen to this and you've never done a fun run, you're going to take a lot of good science and education out of this. So don't think we're just talking to people that want to break 3 hours in the marathon. It's not the case at all. So hopefully over the next 12 months, you might want to get in, or even some of your long walks or hikes. Last 30 seconds, big fella. Give us some parting words.
If I'll say what I probably would have liked to said to myself a little bit younger as an athlete, someone who was keen to progress in sport and that sort of thing. It was like aim for consistency in what you're doing. You know, if you want to get into running, don't suddenly set yourself a really high bar. Just try and get out there X amount of times a week and tick it off. Put another brick in the wall, put one foot in front of the other, and just keep doing it. And if you do, if with running is a great example of one of those sports that pays huge dividends. If you can just not get injured too much, not get ill too much, keep showing up, keep logging the miles. Don't worry about how fast you're going. Certainly at first, just get out there at the best time of day for you. You know, some of us, I'm an early bird. I have to get my run in at like 6:30, 7 a.m. Otherwise, it ain't going to happen. Some people love running at night. Just find out when it works for you and just relentlessly keep chipping away at it and doing it. And you'll look back in a few months, then a few years, and you'll realize how far you've come. Like, go for consistency. All of this, like hitting it hard, mega goals, like loads of intervals, loads of hard stuff. It's like wears thin very quick. Just aim to chip away and be consistent. You'll get massive payback over the years.
That's all you need. Listen to that on repeat. That's all we talk about. It's brilliant. Continuity, it compounds, and not setting the bar. Just the only bar is daily movement, and the rest will flow. Andy Blow, it's been a pleasure. We'll put all the website, of course, in the show notes. You can go and do a sweat test yourself. If you haven't done before, just jump online. They've got a very easy to use system. Mate, until next time, we'll get you on. We love to get you on a couple of times a year. We'll get him on again. He's a busy man. He stayed up late for us tonight. I thank Andy Blow.
Thanks, Rick. See you soon.
Pleasure, guys. This has been Rise Up with Rick. Again, check out the show notes for all the details on Andy and Precision Fuel and Hydration. And all the best. By listening to this, though, you've done something that's going to make you much, much better tomorrow.